The NHS is in crisis. This is my personal experience of having to dial 999 just 2 days after Christmas to get my dad to A&E with a medical emergency. We were taken to Hereford County Hospital. Now, before I say anything else, this is absolutely in no way a complaint. Everyone that we saw was amazing. Now, this pain was in Dad's right-hand side. Now, the right side is where you have your appendix. But Dad's 85, and I'm thinking it's really rare for somebody of 85 to have an appendix. Probably he had severe pain. He could point to it. When he pressed it, it really hurt. When he released it, it really hurt. And it was nowhere else in his abdomen, just in this one place. So with that in mind, I thought I've got to phone the GP. Now, I phoned our GP. They are amazing. You phone up, a duty doctor phones you within a few hours, and then if they need to see you, they call you in and you get to see them that day. So we got a phone call at 4:05 and we went down at 5 o'clock. The GP saw Dad and she wasn't really sure. She didn't think it was his appendix. And I was really grateful because I thought, I don't want to have to go to A&E. They're really, really busy. If I can avoid it, obviously we will do. So why would we not? We came home with some antibiotics, but were obviously told if things get worse that we had to then phone up and go back or do whatever was needed. Came back home and Dad was really not great. And he had a really bad night, actually. He got a lot worse. And in the morning, the pain was worse. It was in his right side. Again, he could point to it. Much, much worse. And I thought, I've got to phone an ambulance. I've just got to. So I dialed 999 and obviously you get the questions, is the patient conscious? Yes. Are they breathing? Yes. Are they bleeding? No. What's the problem? I explained, obviously gave my name, address, phone number, and they said, yeah, I think you need an ambulance. It's down as an emergency. And within half an hour, an ambulance arrived, which is pretty good, to be fair. However, this was where it was really quite difficult in that we got Dad into the ambulance. They had to give him morphine to put him in the ambulance. We then drove to A&E in Hereford. It took a bit of a while to get there, but we got there. And once we were there, Dad was fine. He's in an ambulance with 2 paramedics and he's having pain relief. He's had morphine, he's had liquid paracetamol, and he's kind of resting. The pain isn't as bad as it was and he's pretty much okay. What was sad was that Dad then had to wait for 2 hours in the ambulance because he couldn't get into the hospital because they were so jam-packed full of people. And bless them, these people do the most amazing jobs. Absolutely, they are incredible. They do a fantastic job in really difficult circumstances, and they need more support. They need more people working there. They just need more of everything, really. And these guys do just a fantastic job. But it was sad because in the end we were there for 2 hours, or Dad was there for 2 hours. I'll explain what I did now. Whilst Dad was in the ambulance, nobody else could use that ambulance, of course, because they couldn't drop Dad off. And that was the really sad thing. But Dad needed the ambulance as well. He could have died. So it's kind of like, but it was a really sad time when it obviously couldn't go anywhere else while they were waiting to take Dad into the hospital. Now, when Dad got there, what actually happened was I was asked if I wanted to stay or if I wanted to go home, and Dad said to me, "Why don't you go home?" So I'm really asleep. And they said, "Why don't you go home and come back in 4 or 5 hours? You don't live that far away, and there is literally no space in A&E." And I didn't want to get in the way, and I reluctantly decided, yes, I will go home. Got a lift home, and I said, "I'll come back later." So I went back in about 4 or 5 hours. And Dad was okay. He had had plenty of pain relief. He wasn't in as much pain as he was. He was in the purple area. So that's for people that were walking wounded with illness or injury, but they weren't in immediate danger of, basically dying from their injuries. He was seen by 2 doctors who felt, yes, it was Dad's appendix. And he was then obviously going to need an operation, need a scan, potentially then operation. So he'd been waiting a couple of hours and not been able to get in the scanner. And this really lovely nurse came up and said, I'm sorry, there's a 7-hour wait to use the scanner. We're like, okay. But the next thing, somebody else came along a few minutes later and said, right, we're admitting you to the daycare ward. So very soon after that, Dad was wheeled along and into the daycare ward. And I followed him because I had no idea where it was. Very early in the morning, whisked off to theatre to have an emergency operation on his appendix. The result was that it was extremely inflamed, was imminently due to potentially burst. After about 2:30, 3 o'clock, Dad actually gave us a call. I'd taken his little mobile phone with me, and he was able to call us just very briefly. He's obviously very a little disorientated. He'd had quite a lot of pain medicine, of course. And then he said, don't come in, come in tomorrow. Saturday morning, I go in to visit Dad, and he looks quite weak. I mean, he's 85, but on the whole, he looked better than I thought. He stayed in for a little while, and then he was discharged. He's now back at home, and he's doing really well. And, I'm really grateful to everybody at Hereford County Hospital that looked after Dad. The doctors, the nurses, the surgeons, the consultants, they're absolutely incredibly amazing. If you need it, when you need it, they are just amazing, and they're just doing the best job that they can. Thank you for watching, guys. I'm going to be doing an update on Dad, see how he's getting on in the next few days. There will be a video every Monday on this channel from now on, so if you would like to subscribe, that's awesome. If you're new to this channel, thank you so much for taking the trouble to watch. My name is Helen, otherwise known as Tiny Trekker, because I'm only 4'11" and I trek about. There'll be loads of reviews of kits for outdoors, some hiking, lots of exploring. Camper van restoration is coming on really well, so we'll be out exploring in that very soon. So if you don't want to miss any of that, please do hit that subscribe button. There will be a few car shows thrown in for good measure. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.